Okay, everyone, welcome back to Modern World History. And for the rest of this week, we're going to focus on the Age of Absolutism, and we're going to split the Age of Absolutism into two separate lessons. Our first lesson is going to be on Spain, Austria, and Prussia. So here are our objectives and standards. We're going to look at describing how Spain became a strong country during the Age of Absolutism, and we're also going to compare other European leaders from Austria and Prussia during the time period. So our vocabulary preview: absolute monarch, inflation, divine right, and armada. So I'd like you to think about this. What type of ruler would you want your people to see you as? Would you want to be seen as a strong military figure? Would you want to be strong as a powerful authority figure? Or would you want to be seen as more of a cultural, intelligent leader? So our central question: how did absolute monarchs rule in Europe? So the Age of Absolutism takes place from about 1550 to about 1800. The theory of absolutism is that kings or queens hold all the power within their boundaries. So they wanted to control every aspect of society. Now, where they get this idea is they have this belief in a divine right, which is the idea that God created the monarchy and that the monarch was God's representative on earth. So let's talk about Spain's absolute monarch, Philip II. He was a very shy yet serious man who was also very deeply religious. He was very aggressive when it came to the Spanish Empire as well. So for example, when his uncle, who was the king of Portugal, died with no heir to the throne, Philip takes control of Portugal and all its possessions overseas. So this is going to include the Americas, things in India, and places in the East Indies. And this is going to make Spain very wealthy, especially with gold from the Americas. So Philip was also a defender of the Catholic faith. You probably remember from a couple weeks ago or from other history classes that there are a lot of religious wars throughout Europe at this time period. And Philip believed that he had a duty to protect Spain from the Muslims and the Protestants. So at the request of the Pope, he sent ships to fight the Muslims and the Ottoman Empire, and he does win this battle. Now he also launched an armada, or a fleet of warships, against Queen Elizabeth I for supporting a Protestant rebellion against him. Philip wasn't so lucky in that case. He's going to lose that battle. And this is also going to damage Spain's reputation and the strength of the Spanish Empire. So why did the Spanish Empire collapse? For one thing, we had taxes and inflation. Inflation is a decline in money value, and there was a lack of incoming tax money that left the country struggling. There was a real kind of class struggle in Spain at this time period, and Spain just wasn't able to get enough tax money in to support their economy. There's also a lack of money. The people of Spain were buying foreign goods since they were cheaper, and loans that Philip had borrowed for war had to be repaid to foreign countries. So again, that lack of money as well. And we also have a revolt in the Spanish Netherlands, which will become known as the Dutch people. They were mostly Protestant, and they didn't want to follow Philip and his Catholic faith anymore. So they began to fight back against Spain. And after an 11-year war, they are going to be granted independence. So that also hurt the Spanish Empire. The rise of Austria. So after the 30 Years' War, the Holy Roman Empire could no longer control the German states. So for a time, there's no real leadership in Central Europe until the Habsburg family gained control. The difficult part is that you're controlling a lot of people of different backgrounds and things like that. So to help kind of keep the peace for the next heir to the throne, Charles VI decides that he should have Europeans sign on that his daughter, Maria Theresa, is heir to the throne. The idea behind this is that this would keep the peace for Maria Theresa, but she's actually going to face a lot more problems than she anticipates. So the rise of Prussia. So like Austria, Prussia rose to power in the late 1600s. The family that controlled there was called the Hohenzollern, and they led Prussia and also had plans to expand their territory. Now, Frederick II, who you see here, also known as Frederick the Great, followed his father's aggressive military policies. But even though he was aggressive in the military aspect, he's also going to encourage religious toleration and legal reform. So, Austria versus Prussia. Prussia wanted Silesia, a territory that bordered the country and was rich in materials such as iron and goods and textiles. So Maria Theresa asked Hungary for help since it was part of the Austrian Empire at this time, and Hungary agrees to be her ally along with Great Britain. So even though Austria was able to stop the Prussian aggression, Maria Theresa signed over Silesia to Prussia and it became a major European power. So this whole war that happens over Silesia was called the War of Austrian Succession. Now later on, Maria Theresa is going to sign an agreement and make an alliance with France, who had been Prussia's old ally. When Prussia found this out, they signed an alliance with Great Britain, who was Austria's old ally. So when Prussia attacks Saxony, an Austrian ally, it creates this international war. Now this fighting is going to take place around the world, including Europe, India, and the Americas. And this is going to be known as the 7 Years of War, and it didn't really lead to much territory change or anything like that in Europe, but it was still a major war, and we'll see that come into play in the American Revolution later on. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up today, so absolute monarchs ruled Europe and expanded their control over their people and their territory. Spain expanded its empire in Europe and overseas, but eventually Spain is going to lose its power, and Austria and Prussia battle it out for control in Europe. That's all I have for today, guys. Next class, we're going to look at the Age of Absolutism in Russia. So I will talk to you later. Have a good day.